Uh, Great. We'll get started and give you a bit more information about us and where we are, what we're doing, and how you can get involved, and show you a bit more about what we do here on the EV Nautilus. So first, I'm Kelly Moran. I'm the Ocean Exploration Trust Education Program Coordinator. So what that means is I help with all of the logistics and coordination for our at sea internship and our science communication fellow. And I also schedule throughout our entire seasons ship to shore connection. So schools and science centers, aquariums, really any community event that wants to talk to our ship, I'm able to help set those up so that way scientists and communicators and engineers can talk to students and the general public all around the world throughout our entire season, which is really exciting and a great part of my job. And then with me, I have my colleague.
Hi, I'm Jamie Zachariah. I'm the digital media specialist here with OET. I do a lot of the outward communications, which includes all of our social media accounts, but also our website where we put things like blogs, galleries, and videos. And I basically just work on showing all the amazing science and the work that people on the EV Nautilus do and showing it off to our huge audience around the world and communicating to everyone what we're doing, because we have a very dedicated audience who follow us and like to see what we do.
Yeah, so and hopefully after this, you all become followers of ours too. So we figured for this presentation, we'll give you a bit of an overview on the EV Nautilus, our two ROVs, remotely operated vehicles that we do to go down and study the seafloor since we don't send people down. We'll talk a bit about some of the things that we're going to be seeing in the next few weeks on this first expedition of the 2022 season. Talk a little bit about our entire season, which will go until October. And then we'll show you a bit of our website so you can see how you can get involved, see what kind of roles are on the ship, if there's something that interests you to get a career in oceanography or in ship life, or you don't even have to do science. You could be communicators, you could be cooks, you could be anything to be on really a vessel. So we'll talk a bit about that too, and then answer any questions that you might have for us. Okay, great. So first we'll show you our ship. It's just going to loop through, so it's a little dark right now, but you'll see different angles of our ship, which is the Exploration or EV Nautilus. We just expanded the ship actually. So currently she is 224 meters long. That's about 264, 68 feet. So you gotta do some math, but 224 meters, and it holds just over 50 people. So we can have now, even with COVID, we follow strict guidelines with our COVID protocols. So we're able to have full capacity on board. So we actually will have a full house for this first expedition. And that includes our science party. So that's scientists, engineers, ROV pilots, that's communicators, interns, teachers, but that's also our ship's crew. And that's 17 people who maintain the vessel. That's our captain, that's our cook, that's our engineers and our mates and everyone that basically makes the ship run. So you don't need a career, you don't need to go to school for oceanography to work on a vessel. The actual ship's crew is vital to what we do. So major props to them for all of our expeditions, because without them, we would not be running. We need them to basically help with everything. So that is where we are now. So we have two ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, Hercules and Argus. So I'll talk about Argus first, just because Argus, I don't think gets enough credit, but is vital to the operations that we do. So Argus is the one in the back, the silver tow sled. And when we do our operations, we have EV Nautilus up on the surface, and then we have Argus, which is directly below the ship connected by a cable. Argus is super important because it takes away any of the movement from the ship. So that way Hercules, this big yellow one front and center, is able to have full control of moving around on the seafloor without moving because the ship is moving or moving because the current is strong. Argus really takes away all of that movement, so that way Hercules can maintain control down there on the seafloor. Hercules is also connected to Argus. So we're one big thing in tandem to explore the seafloor. Hercules has manipulator arms, so we can take samples. We can put samples in bio boxes. We have so many different scientific tools that we can use. We can go down to 4,000 meters. So pretty deep. The average depth of the ocean is around 4,000. So we can't cover some of the deeper crevices and cracks, but we can go down to the majority of the ocean floor with these two ROVs. And this is a great shot of Argus looking down on Hercules. And everything that the ROVs do is streamed live. So you're able to watch it on nautiluslive.org, and our science team and the engineers who are piloting them here on board the ship, we work in a control van throughout the day. So we're able to stay dry, do different watches so we can eat and sleep and everything we have to do. But we're streaming it all live. So we're able to see what's happening in real time. We wanted to show you kind of what it looks like to seafloor map. So besides working with the ROVs, it's also super important to map the ocean floor. Well, before we even send the ROVs down, we always map. We are going to be mapping when we head out to where we're going next. We're going to be mapping before every single dive. You don't just want to throw the ROVs in blindly without knowing what you're going to go at least look at terrain-wise. We don't know what we'll see with the cameras on board, but we do want to know what we're looking at in terms of terrain. Is it big seamounts? Is it a super muddy, flat surface area? Is there a really steep something that we're going to bump into? It's all really important to map first. And we use a Kongsberg system. It's a multi-beam mapping system on the bottom of the ship that has a swath system. So the way it works is we send down thousands and thousands of sound waves down to the ocean floor. It pings off the ocean at various depths and then bounces back up to the ship. And we're able to calculate how deep the surface is to the seafloor from this mapping system. So then we also wanted to show some people working in random locations around the ship. So this is the back deck on Nautilus with the various cranes and some of the ROVs getting ready to go into the water. So you can see that the back deck team is a kind of variety of scientists and ROV engineers, but they really help maintain everything. Out into the middle of the ocean, we cannot just go to a store if something breaks. So we have a pretty large workroom here on the ship with a bunch of random tools and a bunch of pieces and parts that you might need in case something broke on the ROVs that they can hopefully fix with them. So all of these different people who work on the back deck can help deploy our ROVs are also the pilots, and they're really skilled in not only piloting them on the seafloor, but also maintaining them and making sure nothing's broken and fixing things if they are. And this is just kind of a variety of people who have sailed on EV Nautilus before. So we take out in terms of who gets to come out on the ship, it really ranges. We do have open calls for educators as part of our Science Communication Fellowship. And that's for formal and informal teachers, so classroom teachers, but also anyone who works in the informal setting. So museums or science centers or aquariums, they can also apply to come out as a fellow. And then we also take interns. So our internship program is open to college students who have a variety of skills. So there's internship programs in ocean science. So students who are interested in more of the science side of either biology, geology, archaeology, chemistry. We also have an internship program, seafloor mapping, to work with our mapping system. We have one in navigation for our Naval and Coast Guard Academy students. We have one in ROV piloting, so you get to actually help pilot and fix up our ROV Argus. And then we also have one in video engineering, and they get to work the cameras not only on EV Nautilus that we're streaming live 24/7, but also the cameras on the ROVs during a live dive. So they're able to really be the ones with the eyes getting to zoom in and zoom out and kind of look around the seafloor that way. And here's we have one fellow and it looks like an intern and some of the scientists who are in the lab during an after dive operation where they get to process some of the samples that are coming in. And that's something we all get to be a part of. And again, we're streaming this live. So for anyone who's interested in working in labs or working in oceanography and geology is a big one right now, especially where we are, which is off the coast of Hawaii. There's so many volcanoes and underwater seamounts. So geology is a big one at the moment for us. So looking at different types of sediment that comes back up onto the ship.
And you can follow along on our social media channels. And like Kelly said, we will be streaming live. Not quite yet, but in a few days we'll be up with the expedition. And you can watch us stream live at nautiluslive.org or through our YouTube channel. And you can watch as we put our ROVs in the water. You can watch what we're doing in the wet lab, what the crew's doing. And we can show you example of what some of those camera streams might look like.
Yeah. So first I wanted to show you where we're headed. So we will be headed, and I don't know if it's coming out backwards for you or if it's correct, but it looks okay on our end. But if it is backwards, I will make sure you guys have the right map. So we will be going to Kingman Reef in Palmyra. So we will be going about 3 days away from Hawaii in the southern location. Oh, good question. I'll get to that in 1 second. So we're going to be going to Kingman Reef and Palmyra Atoll, which is about 3 days away, looking at deep sea corals and sponges as part of the Pacific Remote Island Marine National Monument. Sorry. So in this monument, it's a protected area. It's in the US EEZ, and we just want to know what's there. Not a lot of locations in the monument have been explored before. It's part of the larger chain between the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument and the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument. So really just understanding more about the seamounts in the area, fishing in the area, if we can notice any trawling efforts, but also what type of habitats are there, if it's coral, if it's sponges, what type of fish do we see, really just categorizing everything that we can see and can note for future expeditions in the area to help protect what is there and see if we have to protect more of it as we can kind of expand different types of monuments and sanctuaries. And for the rest of the season, we are staying near Hawaii. So we'll be doing a few different ROVs or ROV operations off the coast of Hawaii, testing out new systems. We're going to be going to Johnson Atoll, which is also kind of close to Kingman Reef. And we're going to be also going to the Liliuokalani Seamount, which is in the northern part of Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. So kind of going all over the islands for this season. We'll be wrapping up in October. So we have a lot to do, a lot to see, but we're excited to talk with you throughout the entire season. While we're live, we can I'll bring us back out so you can see us. Throughout the entire season, you're able to type in questions and comments to nautiluslive.org. So if there's anything you are curious about in terms of the science or in terms of what we're doing or where we are, you can just type in your questions and our scientists will answer your questions live 24/7 during ROV dives, which is something that I think is so valuable for students and teachers and really anyone that just wants to know more about ocean science and what we're doing. Because even though you're not on the ship, you can feel like you're a part of it by watching all the time and asking us questions and getting to know people who are on the watch that you're watching. So I love the comment and question section. Okay, we have a good question of someone who's interested in geology and sampling and where can we send their resume? Good question. So if you're interested in coming out on the EV Nautilus, depending on where you're at in your career, if you're in college, we would recommend applying for our internship program. They're not yet open yet, but our applications should be up on our website, which is nautiluslive.org. They will be up by the end of the summer for the 2023 season. So I recommend checking that out this year. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which will have updates throughout the entire year on various opportunities to come out on Nautilus. If you are already kind of past your college career, but you're interested in science and sampling and this location that we're going to, even if you are a college student. So if you are, oh, perfect, early career PhD, perfect. So if you kind of have an interest in where we're going already, you can sign up to be a scientist ashore. So you wouldn't get to go on EV Nautilus this season, but you would get to contribute from shore. We have a science chat that you can be a part of to talk to some of the scientists. You can learn more about the locations that we're going and watch in real time and kind of contribute that way and talk to our scientists about where we are, what we're doing, why they're taking samples of what, help out with identifying anything. And then if you wanted to send your resume in, you can send it to careers@oet.org and your resume will then go to any available positions that we might have. Perfect. Jamie, do you want to go to our website and we can show you guys a bit about just kind of who we are, to kind of get a feel for what kind of jobs are here on the ship.
So yeah, I was going to say my favorite thing about working for OET is that, yes, it's about the science, but it's also about the education and the spreading of all of this ocean exploration around the globe, from students of all ages to people of all ages, people who maybe have never even seen the ocean. And that's why we have such a good mix of communications and crew and scientists, pilots, video engineers, and it really does encompass all of the STEM, all of the parts of the acronym STEM, as you can see here.
We have really a wide range of people who can come out onto the ship. So you can be in communications through the ship crew that I mentioned before. We have data engineers, we have scientists, ROV pilots, navigators, and you can learn about all of these different roles by going on our website and just clicking on one of these. So Jamie, why don't you click on whichever one you want? Okay, scientist. So you can read up on what it takes to just be a scientist here on the ship. We have videos that go along with each of the roles. So just to kind of get a sense of who's been on board before, what they recommend you do, learn a bit about how they got to where they are. And we're happy to help if you have other careers or other ideas you think about it. And we do link other profiles for various scientists who have come out on the ship so you can learn a bit more about them, how they got to where they are, and see what it takes for them to not only be on Nautilus, but also other exploration vessels as well. And then we also wanted to show you the gallery page, because even though the careers and everything that, we've talked about is super important, I also think just knowing what we see and do every day is also important. You might not know that you're interested in biology, or that you might not know that you're interested in geology or any of the topics, but until you actually go into the field and I think get some hands-on experience, not only on our ship, but also in your locations or closer to you or virtually now, I think it's super important, and you can really get a sense to see like what we're seeing. You can read up on our expeditions and tour our ship and look at some of the biology and geology photo albums and videos of things that we've seen, and maybe something will spark your interest and help kind of guide you and like, oh, this is so cool, I need to know more about it, and help that way. So I did want to tag our gallery page and highly recommend that you check it out just to read up a bit more about who we are, what we do, what we've seen. And that might help answer some questions about, kind of where you're thinking you're headed in your early careers and in your college academic life. Okay, we got some good questions. So let's see. How much of the ocean has yet to be mapped? That's a great question. We just got an email recently about mapping, and it seems that there has been 62%.
I thought it was 52% of US.
Okay, so 52% of US waters has been mapped to the extent that we want it to be mapped at, which is like the highest degree possible. Not quite 100, so still work to do there. But for the actual ocean, it's close to 30-something% in the degree that scientists now want the ocean to be mapped at. One cool thing that we're a part of, and I highly recommend checking it out at the University of New Hampshire, their website, they have, perfect, thank you, Jamie. They have a program called Seabed 2030. And that is an initiative to get other vessels besides us, besides the NOAA ships that we work with, like the Oceanus Explorer, also the RV Falcor. We're trying to map, but it takes a long time. So the Seabed 2030 project is actually a really cool initiative that brings other vessels together to record and put down what they've been mapping, where they go, what they've mapped, to put it all in one place to try and map the ocean floor to the extent that we want in the highest resolution by 2030. So it's a very hefty goal, but we're trying. So we will be mapping a lot throughout our season, and all the other ships are also trying to. So we'll get there. But if you're interested in mapping, I recommend sticking with it, because I do think we will need to keep mapping the seafloor just to know what's there. How long does each expedition last? So how long are we out for this one, Jamie?
So for this cruise, we start off on Monday, and we're
Yep.
going to be out for about 3 weeks. We've been in port for a few days. And with quarantine, things have been a little longer, but the quarantine restrictions are constantly changing. But I feel like it's safe to say our cruises last anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, so because we are going to such remote locations, they have gotten a bit longer. They used to be just about 2-ish weeks, but now that we've gotten to Hawaii and we're staying here and venturing out a bit farther into the Central Pacific, they are a bit longer now. So
Yeah.
usually like some of them are 2 weeks, but for the majority, they're about maybe like 3 to 4.
Yeah.
So we don't get actually back to port until April 5th. So we're out for quite a while on this one. And then we'll probably have about, I think it's 8 or 9 expeditions between mapping and ROV between now and about August. And then we'll do some shorter ones between August and October. Okay, recommendations for when it comes to applying for the internships. Yeah, that is a great question. And it's really, I mean, for a lot of organizations, it's hard. Our criteria is pretty flexible, I would say. I mean, you have to have an interest in it and a passion in what you're applying for. And we want to know that. Put it in your cover letter. We want, what can we do to help you, but also what will you get out of this? If you've had a lot of experiences already, that's fantastic. But what makes this program stand out to you? And that's what I think for some of us who read applications, that is a really important question. With all the other opportunities people can have, knowing why this one, what can we do for you, and what do you bring to the table too? I think that's an important thing to mention, is that you don't have to be an expert in any of the internships that you're applying for. We don't want that. We want you to grow, we want you to learn, we want to teach you things while you're here. But I think expressing your interest and why this program is super valuable. And you don't need to have a lot of experience under your belt to get an internship with us. I think just expressing why and really articulating that this is important to you and what you hope to gain from it and what you hope to do in your future career with this internship is really valuable.
And I see someone else is asking academically how to prepare for a job similar to ours. So if you go back to the career page that we showed, each type of career spotlight includes a section where it explains the different paths that people have taken. And all of us have taken different paths to get where we are, but it does give some great examples of the various types of background that we have, what degrees, what fields, what trainings, and that will give you kind of a better idea of what everyone needs to sort of get into each position, but also the diversity of what it could take to get here, because it's not just one path for anybody.
So how did you get to where how did you get this job?
How did I get here?
Or what did you do before that? What was your pathway?
So I went to college to study wildlife conservation. And then I followed up with grad school and a master's in biodiversity conservation policy. And I really focused on shark conservation because I always had a passion for marine conservation. And so throughout my studies and then my jobs, I became involved in wildlife conservation, environmental conservation, and lobbying. But I really sort of realized that my niche was in communications, and that writing and speaking and communicating these really important things to the world was something that I'm good at and that I love doing. And with OET, I get to combine that with my long-held passion for marine conservation. So yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say I didn't know that I would end up here, but I'm so happy that I did.
Yeah.
And your path is,
I mean, it's similar, but I went also to school I went to the University of Rhode Island for wildlife biology, and started off doing that, and then realized I really loved talking to people. So I didn't want to work in a lab. I didn't want to be secluded and off in various locations doing field work. And some people love that. And I do have friends who were in the same major as me, and that's what they do now, and they love it. But I found that I just like talking to people better. And kind of, even though we get to travel, I am home a lot too, which is nice, and getting to work from home, which is, I think, a bonus. And I enjoy that. So for me, I basically just kind of switched over, and I did some TV work with the Ocean Exploration Trust. I was on camera a lot for their live ship to shore connections and making videos for our website. And then I went over to the education team, which is where I am now, getting to basically do what I wanted to do for others. So I get to now help students and help educators get onto the ship and get to experience it for the first time, and to bring them back again if they enjoyed it so much for a second time. And that is super rewarding for me, is just to help be that kind of guiding point for somebody to go from, I really want to get on a ship and go study something, and this will be so great for my career or for my academics or for my students, and getting to be that person to help bring them here and show them the ropes, and hopefully have them come back again in the future. So I think it's a super cool opportunity and a really cool job that we get to be a part of. Maybe not being on the science side, but just being here, learning from all of the scientists. You really learn a lot, even just in 3 weeks. I feel like this is my almost 14th, 13th expedition. So I've come out here a lot, but every single expedition is different. So even though, like, I know a lot of people who are here, there's still new people who get to come onto the ship. There's new interns, new educators, new scientists who we get to meet and make friends with and to learn from. So I think just seeing everybody on board is super valuable. Okay. Typical day in the life.
So this is actually my very first expedition out at sea. So as we haven't gotten out to sea yet, I haven't had that day in the life. But since I have been here and I have been on the ship for 24, 36 hours now,
About, yeah.
you know, it's not all that different from your day at work, but it is, but it isn't. So you have your duties that you know, your work duties, but it's a smaller space, and you really get to know everyone really well. And when we begin diving, we'll have watch schedules. So you're on duty for those watches 4 hours at a time, and then off duty, and you kind of have to adjust your schedule when you're going to sleep based on the watches. But I think Kelly can probably speak better to that, since this is her 14th expedition.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's more work than home. I will say we do sleep, but it is not as much as I think we would want to. We are standing watches. So our like work schedule, for the majority of us, so Jamie and I work for the trust who owns this ship. So like we still have our daily life and our daily operations that we have to do in our normal job, and then add on the stuff we have to do here. So for us, unfortunately, it does become a bit more work, super rewarding, but more work. So I think a day in the life for most people is you get up. It again fluctuates in times because of the watch schedule. So every single person on this boat has a watch schedule, and that is an AM and a PM shift. So you could have 4 to 8, 8 to 12, and then 12 to 4 AM and PM. That's when you're up in the control van, which is right behind me. Here, I'll show you a view of it. You're up in this control van, and we have one of the pilots up there now. So you get to be in here working. And this is where everyone goes during the ROV operation. So if they're not diving, you don't have to go up into the van to work. You get a little bit of time off. But during dive operations, you do the morning and the evening watches. And then in between that, you get your normal job done. You need to eat, you need to sleep. We have 3 meals a day, and we have snacks, and pretty cozy cabin. So you do have a roommate. So you have to kind of learn to go back to sleeping in a bunk bed, which is fun. But yeah, you just kind of work everything else around your watch schedule, which is the most important. And then for our scientists, they actually have a bit more work, and our ROV pilots, because once the ROVs come out of the water and the watch is done, they have to then maintain the ROVs. They do an ROV check. They make sure all the samples are off. They are cleaning up the ROV, making sure everything's working properly. They have a pretty long checklist for that to get ready for the next dive. And our scientists will then take all of those samples into the wet lab that we have on board the ship. And they're able, here's the wet lab. No one's in there right now, but it looks a lot busier when we start ROV operations. But so they'll take the samples off and process them, tag them, photograph them, write all their notes down, and get ready for the next dive again. So they don't get much sleep, those two groups, really, but it's fun, and I love being out here. It's chaotic, it is tiring, and people go a little bit stir crazy, but it's really fun, and I really enjoy it. Okay. What's it like to live on a vessel for an extended period of time? It honestly isn't that bad. You think it's going to be hard, but we have the internet. So you can check your emails, you can talk to your friends and family, you can make phone calls if there's no video, like no video Skype or no video in the phone call. You can get your normal work done on your computer. So it isn't that bad. I mean, you're away, but
And a lot of it is socializing with everyone else on
Yeah.
the ship, which is really, rewarding for many different reasons. And you get to be on the deck if you want sunshine, or go into your cabin if you want to take a nap.
Yep.
And you really, you have all of the things that you do regularly, just smaller.
Yeah. The sunsets are and the sunrises are spectacular. I've
Mhm.
never experienced a sunset the way you do in the middle of nowhere with no land around you. It is truly like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. So I feel like even though you are tired and it's a lot of work and sometimes you feel a little crammed up with 50 people on a boat that you can't escape, there are places to go and there's places to unwind. There's a gym, you can relax, you can take naps, you can read books, you can go sit by yourself somewhere and just kind of hang out. So it's not that bad. Okay, we have one more question, and that is, what are your specific roles on the expedition that you were on? Good question.
So yeah,
Nope.
so our expedition is this one's a pretty standard as so far as the roles that have been on most of our expeditions. And I'm going to refer back to that careers page. So you'll see we have communications, which people like us, we have people doing video engineering, the crew who works on the ship and keeps everything running. We have data engineers, data loggers, the scientists and the pilots and the navigators. So I would say this is a pretty standard expedition as far as the positions that are on here.
Yeah, and our specific role for Jamie and I, we will be. I'm out as the communications lead. Jamie's out as communications almost lead. Since it's her first time, she's going to be watching me on this expedition and kind of copying what I do, so that way when she comes out next on her own, she's a pro. And we'll also be switching off. So as I mentioned with the Science Communication Fellowship, which we bring out educators for, they get to actually be the voices, like almost the moderator on our website and helping with our ship to shore connections. So we'll be serving one of those roles too. So we'll be sitting the third watch, since we're bringing out 2 teachers on this expedition. So we'll be sitting the third one, so that way give them a little bit of a break in interactions and on SPL, but also just I love SPL, so which is a science party line, which is the voices you hear on Nautilus Live. So we get to do that too. And then the last part of that was, what do you get to do that someone else doesn't? Ooh, I mean, Jamie's in charge of all of our social media and what goes up on our website. So she's the only one who gets to do that, which I think is pretty cool. You basically get to decide what Nautilus Live's brand is.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely it's really fun. And I feel very honored to be able to represent Nautilus and the OET. And I think part of what my role is going to be on the ship is getting people to help me provide that kind of content. And so
yeah,
it's going to be really fascinating gathering the content and showing all of these, minute niche parts of being on a ship and showing that to our audience.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think that was the last one. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I just want to mention our website one more time, which is nautiluslive.org. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Nautilus Live. Great. Go on our website, check out all of our fun pages, learn about our internship programs and our fellowship, look at all of our fun videos and photo albums. And then when we start diving, so we will turn our website on tomorrow, which we're super excited about because right now it's in winter mode. We're going to be turning on our live streams tomorrow. So you'll get to see basically, this is where the ship is now. That's the port that we're at. So we're still in port. But when we turn our cameras on, you get to see that. And then when we start diving in a couple of days, hopefully it should be around the end of the week. You get to watch live what we're doing 24/7. So what the ROVs are seeing, what we're seeing, you get to see live. There is literally like a 0.2 second delay in what the ROVs see and what you get to see. So I do hope you tune in and you get to be a part of our mission and ask us questions while we're diving and be a part of ocean exploration, even though you're at home on your couch or in school in your classroom. So we love having you, and thank you so much for all your great questions.
All right, well, thank you again to Jamie and Kelly for joining us today, and to all of our attendees, thank you for joining us, and we wish you all the best luck in your next steps.
Thank you so much. Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.